So I don't really like to talk about the cartoons that I watch. I don't really watch cartoons, but I did start this cartoon, and it's called Orb. I think you guys should check it out. Basically, it's this really weird cartoon. It's kind of intellectual. It's on Netflix, both in America and in Tanzania. I have a, what they call it, proxy, whatever it's called. Anyway, so here's the thing about this cartoon. It's about heliocentrism, which makes it really weird. It's an anime, it's a Japanese anime set in Europe, and it's just about this idea that, the Earth revolves around the sun, and how that wasn't really accepted by the church, as it were, because it challenged the orthodoxy. And of course, you had the Templars, or whatever, the Knights, or whatever you call them, but basically killing the heretics, blah, blah, blah. But the main thing about it is how certain disconnected individuals can research and put together the theory and propagate the theory, even without having any sort of, like, some of them having no scholastic background, some of them being illiterate, some of them whatever. But the reality is this. Here's the thing, and it struck me as I was coming here. And of course, you guys heard the last video I had, right? All that kind of jazz. What it tells me, what you gotta feel, this is something that's important. You're looking at people, I hope, and you're gonna realize this, that most people are not gonna do anything for Africa, for anything. Most people are just not gonna accomplish anything. Most people are not gonna move the historical needle. Most people are not Traore's that guy, but most people are not that guy. All right, and the question really becomes: are you going to be one of the most people? Right? Because here's the thing: it's like you being in Africa doesn't mean you're going to change the world. You're going to change the course of history. You're going to change Africa. Doesn't mean that kind of stuff. But that work that we think about while we're sitting in our comfortable, little bubbles that this white boy gave us, that work we think about is very, very, very difficult. And it's even more difficult if you're not on the continent. It's difficult if you are. It's more difficult if you're not. But here's the reality. The people who are going to be those movers and shakers on the continent are on the continent. Now, I'm not saying you can't assist in some way if you're of that kind of volition. Yeah, you can. But let's be honest. How are you going to assist people from, if you're not with them? How are you going to do that? How do you trust people? Here I'm in this, I tell you guys I have this business, right? Out here, restaurant. Now, restaurant business is probably not the best business on the planet. But here's the thing. You can't even hire a local and say, hey, I need you to do X, Y, Z. Because you don't know them. And if you do that, guess what? They're telling you, oh, yeah, well, my daughter's sick right now, and, oh, well, could you give me some money? I need to buy a dress, or, blah, blah, blah. They're giving you all sorts of stories. They're giving you all sorts of... the reality is that you can't even, without the connections, without what I used to call social capital, without this sort of stuff, you can't really accomplish much. Without the trust, without the reputation that you will have, or even assessing the reputation of others, without this sort of stuff, you can't accomplish much, even if you were next door to somebody. So what makes you think you could do it from afar? What makes you think you could do it from abroad? What poisoned your mind to think that? So, I'm being very sincere, very honest. I know a lot of people don't want to hear this. A lot of people don't want to have to, a lot of people don't want to come to terms with this. But if you're not on the continent, right? It's a very, how about this? Put it this way. If a person is not on the continent, you don't have to go personal. If a person is not on the continent, the odds of them doing stuff for the continent are slim to none. And if you wish to do something for the continent, but you're not on the continent, the odds of you accomplishing whatever it is that you wish are slim to none. Because let's say you reach out to somebody, they're under no obligation to fulfill whatever it is you reached out to them for. And if you happen to put some money in that, and here's the thing, even if you're here, There are guys who come down here, they say, look, I'm going to invest in, you see these poles over here, these power lines and that kind of stuff. Invest in these power lines in mining cities and all that kind of stuff. And then the people, after they do that, they just take the mine, they just take their investment. And you can't even do anything. You might not even have the court on your side. Because based off of what you might have signed, or even if you did sign something, the reality is, it's so... If you really want to accomplish stuff in the world, I'm just putting it this way, you want to be in where you want to accomplish. I've always said you want to be local, you want to build your community centers, and even that is very, very difficult. I'm fighting that. You want to build your community centers, you want to build your schools, you want to be present, but if you are not present, if you are not there, just consider yourself not doing anything. Now, if you have some other plan, like, look, I got to accumulate wealth before I get there, that's good. Those who fail to plan to fail. If you want to accumulate wealth and then have wealth ready when you travel, that's smart. Because, broke folk don't really accomplish much, or can't really accomplish much. However, if you're not of that energy, you're not of that inclination, if you're not looking at your finances first and foremost, if you're not doing any of that kind of stuff, and you're just like, hey, look, I'm all about Africa because I'm watching these Amos Wilson videos and I'm reading these books, if that's your whole MO, you're screwed. You're screwing yourself, and that's pretty much it. I'm at my stop. All right.